I was quite despondent when I realised I wouldn't be able to celebrate my birthday in the usual manner of not telling everybody to come to karaoke and expecting them to turn up anyway, but then some very good friends got me a voucher for Pasta Evangelists as a present for that very same birthday. So I was getting free food and an internet service to review. What more could I want? Prior to this, the only subscription meal service I had used outside of Huel was from the Spicery, which sends you regular curries. The problem is that what it actually sends you is a box of spices and you need to go out and buy all the substantive ingredients, which sounds an awful lot like just cooking to me. Pasta Evangelist promises to send you everything you need, just add salty water. So, let's see how this panned out. My first shipment arrived a day late, so I had my dad put it in the freezer for consumption later in the week, hence why there's no unboxing. Yet. What you see here is me having thawed it in the fridge overnight and arranging all the items that came in the box. We have a bag of pesto, something gluten-free, something in a box, a couple of tubs of cheese which I conveniently left in the fridge, the instruction manual for this week's Venezia-themed dishes, and some free pasta straws for drinking things until they fall apart. What you now see is me trying to decipher the sticker system. I'd been expecting only one meal in this shipment, but it seems you get 2 meals per shipment, and they have these colours on the stickers to let you know which ingredients to go in which meals. There are 3 colours here. The tortelloni seems to be self-explanatory, but we have what appears to be the pesto from the gluten-free tagliatelle with pesto alla genovese and pine nuts, along with what, despite being gluten-free, is definitely not tagliatelle, but might be the pappardelle from Venice's famous duck ragu with pappardelle. The problem here is actually that I don't remember what I ordered, and the Pasta Evangelist website really doesn't help elucidate matters. So, being a hygiene-conscious person, I put my now-thawed fresh egg pasta and meat back in the freezer and went to email Pasta Evangelist to see what was up. Having been assured that the wide golden pasta I had received was definitely the narrow green pasta I should have received, I got back to trying again. First up, the Venetian beef shin and Valpolicella wine tortelloni. This requires water, which is salty, and boiling. We add the tortelloni to it for precisely 3 minutes, which should be time enough to melt the block of butter that comes in the box. If anybody asks, I was browning mine. We then transfer the tortelloni to the melted butter, find some way to toss it in said butter, then plate, making sure not to waste any of that butter, and eat. We've also been given what we assume is the recommended amount of cheese, so that all needs dumping on. This is good pasta. It has been cooked for an appropriate amount of time, the sauce works well, though I could do with something to mop it up with, and it is decently filling. Which is a problem because I had another bowl of pasta to make and I only eat once a day, so it needs making and eating immediately. The tagliatelle with pesto alla genovese and pine nuts requires just 1 pan of salty, boiling water. Oh hey, looks like I already had one of those. Stellar work. As the pesto doesn't need cooking. We only have 2 minutes of cooking time, don't worry, the pappardelle was also 2 minutes, to wrestle open the pesto bag, so get that done before we start cooking. We can now gracefully dump our definitely tagliatelle in the pan and get to work on the pesto. The pesto needs a tablespoon of what certain chefs might refer to as liquid gold, and then we give it an ineffectual swish. With that done, we now transfer the tagliatelle to the pesto, once again give it a tossy toss, and no need to plate because it's already in the plate. Can't say it wasn't quick and easy, and I used a grand total of 2 pans and some salty water for both meals. Now time to add the correct amount of cheese, and if you like fresh egg pasta in pesto, that is definitely what it is. Once again, it is appropriately cooked, and it tastes good, albeit rather salty, though I always find the smell of fresh egg pasta a bit weird. Now, a sensible person would stop the video there, but I wanted to show you an unboxing, and there's a reason I couldn't show you one before, and that's because the box it comes in is this mofo. When I arrived home after the first was delivered, I found my dad, I get all my deliveries sent to his office, had cleared out half the freezer to fit one of these in. So let's see what I got rid of to be less obnoxious about the freezer space. We open it using a convenient pull strip that apparently actually works. Take that, Amazon and McVitie's. And find inside some very strange padding along with the ingredients which are still cold. We have some sauce, something gluten-free, ice bags for the keeping cold of it all, some sort of dairy ball, and big bags of wool. Turns out they use these bags of wool to insulate their boxes and these weird bags of goo to actively cool them. And here are the ones I held on to from last week. Being that I already have a couple of ice bags in the freezer ready for future picnic cool boxes, I very gracefully open up these ones and pour them down the drain because the packaging assures me that's a sensible thing to do. And by pour, we mean gloop in the sink and then rinse down. The wool got thrown away the old-fashioned way because it's supposedly compostable, but I don't have a compost heap. I know what you're thinking, do they send the wool packing to people that made vegan orders too? Well, maybe you'll find out later. Anyway, let's get back to looking over our ingredients where, once again, we have 3 colours of sticker for 2 meals. This is Ligurian week and I can find what appears to be sea bass ravioli with samphire. I had to look up what samphire is. And I would have been willing to believe that this mozzarella looking thing was my sage butter sauce if it weren't for the fact that it's definitely the fior di latte that comes with the gnocchi alla sorrentina, what with all this gnocchi and a bag of appropriate tomato sauce. But I've learned better than to ask the Pasta Evangelists customer service for help, and the ingredients for the sage butter appear to be butter, sage, salt and pepper, all of which I have. So, to the pans! Once again we start with water, which is salty, and boiling. And once again we have 3 minutes after artfully dumping in our ravioli without the samphire to pop some mix of butter, salt, pepper and sage in a pan. What combination, you ask? Nobody knows, and by nobody I mean no me. There's a Showgirls reference for you. You're welcome. We also need the samphire in there. With the ravioli boiled, it goes in the pan. My brother's in town, so the slotted spoon isn't in the right place. The wooden spoon turns out to be a poor substitute, and there's the slotted spoon in the wrong place. We poorly toss the ravioli in the makeshift sauce and then transfer to a bowl to eat. This is well-cooked pasta. It's also overly salty for some reason. I can't imagine why. But the important thing is that the fish tastes right and I still have no idea what samphire is. Also, I could do with something to help mop up the sauce. But no time to dawdle because once again somebody has conveniently left me a pot of salty water to chuck my gnocchi into. However, apparently gnocchi only takes 1 minute to cook, so let's chicken out of trying to cook the sauce in that time, not least because of how long opening the bag takes, and find what I'm told needs to be a large pan to cook our sauce and cheese in. I don't like the idea of a giant glob of mozzarella in there, so we'll make sure to cut the cheese and then put a lid on it because apparently sauces need lids. The convenient thing with gnocchi is we don't actually need to watch the clock as we'll know it's done when it floats, which is when we transfer it to our sauce, toss in effectively, and transfer to a bowl to eat. This is oddly boring, especially if I hit a chunk of cheese that needs chewing through. I don't eat a lot of gnocchi, so I couldn't tell you how well cooked it is, but there's not all that much going on. There's nothing wrong with it, and it's light and very easy to eat, so it'd be great for a simple meal that you want to get out of the way rather than a centerpiece of any sort, but it doesn't leave a lasting impression, though it does leave a very pleasant and spicy aftertaste, so I'm not complaining. Now, I was going to leave it at that, but my third delivery answers a question I asked earlier, and I'm not one to tease a sequel, so, Superstar DJs, here we go. This box was flapping at the bottom for some reason, but it still appears intact, so let's run with it, even if we do forget for a moment that that great tear strip exists. And now we have our big surprise. This does not look like our previous bags of wool, though this does look a lot like our bags of ice. This looks like pasta, this looks like sauce, as does this. This looks like cheese, this looks like nuts, this looks like more pasta, and this is a can of peach dash along with a bunch of coupons for various mail order services. After coming back from a phone call where a friend asked me if I wanted some free food, I checked the bag of not wool and it appears to be shredded newspapers. So there we have it. If you order vegan, they do not pack it in wool, and it would seem they actually send you all the right ingredients. So let's do something with them. We know how this starts, but for some reason this pasta comes in one of those battle bags. Maybe the paper bags were made of beef. We dump our pasta in, and this time leave our large pan on the large ring because we're clever like that. This is important because we need as much time as possible to get this bag open and get the duck sauce in there, along with some more liquid gold. It says a tablespoon, but I don't trust my tablespoon. Give it an ineffectual stir, transfer the pasta into the sauce, and do some more pour tossing. We'll assume you know what transfer into a bowl looks like by now, so let's grab our side dishes and apply the correct amount of cheese. This is well cooked, tastes decent, needs something to mop up the sauce, and the dash tastes like vaguely flavoured sparkling water. If you like sparkling water but think it needs some vague flavour, try Dash instead of the wine they actually recommend to go with it, because only one of them is free and in front of you right now. Which brings us round to our last dish. Looks like somebody kindly left us some salty water into which we can dump our orecchiette after managing to liberate them from their sack, and then we can go in for a second round with the pesto. Something about one of these dishes means that this water is getting very bubbly and borderline overflowing, but that just means it's easier to get to our liquid gold. Stir, 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 and then transfer, and transfer, and transfer some more. Growing children need lots of orecchiette, it would seem. And then toss. This is vegan, so we know how to ensure we have the correct amount of pistachio bits, and this is not bad at all. This is another easy eat, but it is flavoursome instead of boring. Normally, I don't like nuts in my food, but these pistachios work well, though I still need something to mop up the sauce with. Also, the dash tastes better now. So now we can ask, is Pasta Evangelists any good? Depends what you want. If you like all sorts of pasta but want somebody to force you to vary up your recipes, this does the job. If you want some meals that are quick and easy to make, these are definitely those. After all, making and eating 2 meals in a row takes less than 40 minutes, including time to set up your phone's camera at various skew width angles. If you're the kind of person that likes cooking at home and wants some ideas for new recipes, this could work really well for that too. If you have a restricted diet and want some pasta that will cater for your needs, this might fit that bill if they ever send you the right ingredients. What's wrong with it? Outside of logistical issues, the only thing that worried me is that pasta, if we're being authentic and my understanding is correct, is not an entire meal, so at the very least I would appreciate some serving suggestions beyond wine pairings. Also, I definitely needed some classy bread to mop up sauce with, though I'm not sure how well that would have survived the delivery process. Overall, I'm not foodie enough to be spending my own money on more of these, but I'm plenty happy that I was gifted them.